The metal walls hummed with a low vibration, like the heartbeat of a giant machine. Cold blue lights flickered along the ceiling, casting long shadows over the chamber. In the center stood a single figure, a man, thin and bruised, his uniform torn, his hands bound behind his back. Sergeant Adam Cross. Around him, 9 tall figures sat in floating chairs, their alien faces half hidden by holographic screens. They were the Council of 9, the rulers of the Galactic Alliance. To most species, they were gods of law and order. To Adam, they were just the ones pretending to understand war. The lead counselor, a towering creature of crystal and light named Viacor, leaned forward. His voice was smooth, cold, and full of pride. "Human," he said, his glowing eyes narrowing. "You stand accused of violating interstellar combat law. You destroyed entire Threx divisions without authorization. You disobeyed retreat orders. You cost us thousands of soldiers." Adam didn't answer. Viacor tilted his head. "Do you have nothing to say in your defense?" Adam looked up slowly. His face was pale, his jaw tight. His eyes, gray, human, alive, didn't waver. The silence stretched long enough that even the council began to shift uncomfortably. Then he smiled. It wasn't the grin of a fool or the smirk of arrogance. It was small, quiet, the kind of smile that belonged to someone who had already seen the end of the world and made peace with it. Several counselors muttered in disgust. "Primitive behavior," hissed one. "Mockery," growled another. Viacor slammed a clawed hand against the table. The sound rang like a bell. "You find this amusing, human?" Adam's voice was soft, but it carried. "You wouldn't understand." A ripple of outrage moved through the room. Screens flashed red as the council's translators tried to interpret his tone. "Explain yourself," Viacor demanded. Adam's eyes moved slowly from one alien face to another. He saw them, the arrogance, the fear, the certainty that they were the masters of civilization. He saw how clean their uniforms were, how bright their world was, how little they knew about blood. He spoke quietly. "You wanted to know what happened on Arcanis 4. That's why I'm here, right?" "Yes," Viacor said. "We demand a full account." Adam nodded once. "Then you'll get it." He straightened as much as the chains would allow. The lights dimmed slightly as the council's recording drones floated closer, their lenses glowing red. "It started with a call for help," he said. "A mining colony under attack. We were told it was routine, simple defense work. You sent us there as support, not soldiers. But you knew what was waiting." The holographic screens behind him flickered. Images of burning cities, shattered fields, and black clouds appeared. Alien civilians running, screaming. Viacor's voice cut in sharply. "You refer to the Threx Dominion assault." Adam nodded. "Yeah, the bugs. You called them a minor threat." A deep rumble moved through the ship, distant, almost like thunder. The council ignored it, assuming it was just reactor noise. Adam went on. His tone didn't rise, but the words carried weight. "When we landed, the sky was already on fire. The Threx were everywhere. Your forces retreated within hours. But my squad stayed. We had orders to protect the civilians." A counselor laughed, a harsh, metallic sound. "Protect? You humans could not protect yourselves from your own extinction." Adam looked up again. That faint smile returned. "Maybe, but we tried." The room fell silent. He took a breath. His hands clenched behind him. "You aliens fight with numbers. With machines. You fight because it's your job. Humans fight because we have to. Because something inside us doesn't know how to quit." Viacor's crystal skin pulsed with light. "Your defiance cost millions of lives." Adam's gaze sharpened. "And it saved billions." Another rumble shook the floor. This one louder, closer. The council's aides looked around nervously. A few monitors flickered. One of the guards whispered something into his communicator, his expression uneasy. Viacor ignored it. "You have not yet answered for your crimes," he said coldly. Adam leaned forward slightly. "You think I'm the criminal? You sent us to die. Then you hid when we didn't." "Silence!" Viacor roared, slamming his hand again. The lights flashed white, but Adam didn't stop smiling. You want to know why I smiled when you called me a monster? He said quietly. Because you've already lost. The words hung in the air. Several counselors turned to one another. Lost? What does he mean? Before Viacor could respond, the chamber's lights flickered violently. The hum of the ship turned into a growl. A siren blared, sharp and shrill. Report, barked a guard. Static crackled over the speakers. A voice shouted in a panic. Unidentified ships approaching. Multiple human signatures, inbound. The council chamber erupted in noise. Holographic maps lit up with blinking red dots surrounding the fleet. Viacor spun toward Adam. What have you done? Adam looked up, eyes calm, the same quiet smile still on his lips. I told you, he said. You wouldn't understand. The alarms grew louder. The deck trembled beneath them, and in the chaos, amid the shouting, the flashing lights, the confusion, Sergeant Adam Cross stood perfectly still, smiling as the storm finally arrived. Long before the trial, before the alarms and the storm outside the council ship, there was Arcanis 4, a green, half-forgotten colony world on the edge of the galaxy. It was supposed to be quiet, peaceful, the kind of place soldiers got sent when they were no longer needed. That's where Sergeant Adam Cross and his small squad of human soldiers were dropped, 6 men and women in worn-out armor, carrying outdated rifles and Earth-made gear that looked ancient beside alien technology. The Galactic Peace Corps had sent them to assist the defense forces, which really meant they were there to watch and take orders. The real war, everyone said, would be handled by the advanced species, the Vaughn, the Kalari, and the Threx Dominion's enemies, the Elenese Guard. The humans were background noise. When the humans arrived, the alien officers barely acknowledged them. Primitive species, whispered one Kalari, his voice metallic and cold. They still breathe oxygen without filters. They break easily, another laughed. But they die with enthusiasm. The laughter spread through the alien ranks. The humans pretended not to hear. Adam simply smiled that same faint, knowing smile and ordered his team to unpack. The human squad set up in an abandoned hangar on the colony's outskirts. The floor was cracked. The air smelled of rust and rain. Private Reed, the youngest of them, stared at the gray sky outside. So, you ever get the feeling they sent us here to disappear? Adam shrugged. Maybe, but until we do, we work. He didn't complain. He never did. He just watched, the way a hunter watches before moving. He watched the locals, the alien soldiers, the way the command center was run with arrogance, not discipline. And most of all, he watched the horizon, a thick orange line of dust that never went away. That was where the Threx Dominion would come from. The first attack happened 3 nights later. It started as static on the comms, a strange clicking sound, like claws scraping metal. Then came the signal distortion. The sky turned red. The dust storm rose higher than the mountains. The alien commanders panicked. Their scanners showed thousands of heat signatures moving fast, too fast. The Threx had arrived. They didn't come like soldiers. They came like a plague, swarms of black shapes falling from the sky, tearing through defenses, cutting down everything that moved. The alien generals shouted over one another, retreating to orbit before the enemy even reached the capital. Adam's comm buzzed. Orders. Private Reed asked, voice shaking. Adam looked at the burning horizon. The wind howled, carrying screams from the city below. He could have called for pickup. He could have followed retreat protocol like the others. But instead, he said, we hold the line. No one left behind. So, that's suicide, Reed whispered. Then we died doing our job. He turned to his squad, 5 soldiers in dirty armor, staring at him in silence. There are civilians in that city. Kids. Families. They don't get to die because some alien general lost his nerve. And with that, he led them toward the smoke. They moved through streets filled with fire. Alien soldiers ran past them, throwing down their weapons. The humans didn't stop. They helped whoever they could, pulling survivors from collapsed buildings, treating wounds, setting up barricades. The aliens watched in disbelief. When the Threx finally reached them, it was chaos. The air was full of screaming. The ground shook with the sound of claws and gunfire. Adam fought like a machine. Every shot counted. Every command was clear. He moved from cover to cover, dragging wounded soldiers out of the open. When his rifle jammed, he used a broken metal pipe. Even when blood ran down his arm, he didn't slow down. At one point, a wounded alien officer, the same one who had mocked him days earlier, crawled behind a wall, bleeding green. Adam knelt beside him. "Can you walk?" The alien looked up, ashamed. "You stayed." Adam nodded. "We don't run." Hours passed like minutes. The humans fought until their ammo was gone, then used scavenged alien weapons. They were dirty, tired, and bleeding, but they kept fighting. When night fell, the city was still burning, but it was still standing. The Threx had pulled back, leaving behind a trail of smoke and bodies. Adam's squad regrouped in a half-destroyed school building. There were only 3 of them left. Private Reed sat against a wall, clutching his side. "Sir, we're surrounded. No reinforcements. No supplies. What now?" Adam stayed through a cracked window at the stars. The planet was quiet again. Too quiet. He smiled faintly. "Now we see how long we can make them bleed." Outside, far in the distance, more Threx ships were landing, thousands of them. The war was only beginning. But on that night, in the ruins of Arcanis 4, 6 humans had done something no alien army had managed before. They made the Threx retreat. And though the world was burning, Adam Cross didn't look afraid. He just stood there, hands on his rifle, eyes calm and steady, the faint trace of a smile still on his lips. The kind of smile that said, "You don't know what humanity really is yet." The dawn on Arcanis 4 came red. Not the red of sunrise, the red of burning cities. Thick clouds of smoke hung over the colony. The air tasted like ash and blood. Every street echoed with distant gunfire and the low, clicking roar of the Threx Dominion as they swarmed across the plains. From orbit, it looked hopeless. From the ground, it felt worse. Inside the remains of an old refinery, Sergeant Adam Cross stood over a broken map table, its screen flickering. His surviving team, Reed, Vale, and Ortiz, waited quietly. Their faces were gray with exhaustion. Reed broke the silence. "So, we can't hold much longer. The Threx have taken the eastern ridge. No help's coming." Adam didn't answer at first. He traced a line across the flickering map with his finger, from the refinery to the nearby evacuation tunnels. His eyes were tired but steady. "Then we make sure whoever's left gets through those tunnels," he said. "If we can buy them a few more hours, that's enough." Vale slammed her fist on the table. "A few hours? We've got no air support, no ammo, and those things just keep coming. The Council already pulled their fleets. They've written us off." Adam looked up. "Maybe, but the civilians haven't." The others fell silent. He stepped out into the gray light. The city stretched before him, half gone, half alive. He could hear voices in the distance, aliens crying, calling for help. The wind carried the smell of smoke and melted metal. Adam raised his binoculars. The horizon shimmered with heat. Then he saw them, black shapes crawling over the hills. Dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands. The Threx were moving again. He lowered the binoculars slowly. "Get everyone underground," he said. "I'll hold the entrance." Reed's eyes widened. "Sir, that's suicide." Adam looked at him. "Then it's my turn." Hours later, the sky broke open. The Threx bombardment began. Orbital fire rained down like molten rain, lighting up the entire planet. Whole blocks vanished in seconds. The aliens in orbit watched from their ships, silent, horrified. They had abandoned the surface days ago, convinced no one alive remained below. They were wrong. In the middle of the inferno, humans were still fighting. Adam crouched behind a collapsed wall, radio static buzzing in his ear. The ground trembled with every strike. He could feel the heat through his armor. "Reed, status," he said. "Static." Then a faint voice. "Tunnels sealed. Civilians safe." "So, what about you?" Adam looked up at the burning sky and gave a small laugh. Still breathing. He moved through the rubble, careful and silent. Around him, alien soldiers who had once mocked him now fought beside his team, inspired by the impossible. One of them, a wounded Elenese guard named Kor, crawled toward him. Human, why do you stay? Adam helped him up. Because somebody has to. Kor stayed at him, confused. You don't fear death. Adam shook his head. I've seen worse. I've seen surrender. Another explosion rocked the street. Dust and debris rained down. Adam grabbed Kor and pulled him into cover. Through the smoke, he saw them, a wave of Threx soldiers, their chitinous armor glowing in the firelight. He took aim, fired. His weapon clicked empty. He sighed. Figures. He dropped the rifle, picked up a fallen Threx weapon, and kept shooting. The gun kicked hard, alien tech not meant for human hands, but it worked. He cut down 3, 4, 5 of the creatures before a blast threw him backward. His armor cracked. His head rang. For a moment, everything went quiet. He could hear only his heartbeat, slow, steady. Then, through the haze, he saw movement. The Threx commander, massive, armored in black glass, stepped over the rubble, mandibles twitching. Adam struggled to his feet, blood running down his forehead. The alien towered above him. Human, it hissed in broken galactic tone. Why resist? You are fragile. You are nothing. Adam wiped blood from his mouth. He smiled faintly. Maybe, but we're hard to kill. The Threx swung. Adam dove aside, rolled, grabbed a metal pipe from the ground, and drove it into the creature's joint. It screamed, a high, sharp sound that echoed through the ruins. Adam fell to his knees, chest heaving. The commander collapsed beside him, thrashing, then went still. The street was quiet again. Only fire and wind remained. Hours later, Adam climbed onto a rooftop, bleeding and exhausted. He looked toward the horizon, toward the stars. He pressed the comm switch on his wrist. To any galactic command still listening, he said, voice rough. This is Sergeant Cross, Earth Forces. Arcanis 4 is not lost. Repeat, not lost. We are still here. We're holding. He paused. The smoke rolled around him. If you can't send help, then just remember this. We fought because no one else would. We'll keep fighting until there's nothing left. He released the button. Static filled the air. Far above the planet, on alien ships that had long given up hope, the message came through. Broken, cracked, but clear enough. We're not dying for glory. We're dying so your children have time to run. The alien commanders who heard it said nothing. Some laughed. Others turned away. But deep down, a few felt something new. Shame. On the ground, Adam sat alone as the fires dimmed. The city was gone. The stars were faint behind the smoke. Reed's voice crackled over the comm one last time. So, we made it out. Civilians are safe. What about you? Adam looked at the horizon, the faint glow of another Threx wave approaching. He smiled again, still breathing. He loaded his last weapon and whispered to himself, let's see how long they can keep up. The sky burned brighter. The swarm roared. And humanity, tired, wounded, outnumbered, refused to fall. The transmission was supposed to die in static. The communication towers of Arcanis 4 had been destroyed days ago. The atmosphere burned with interference. But somehow, against every law of science, one human voice broke through the storm. It was cracked, low, and tired, but clear enough to echo through the command decks of half the galactic fleet. We're not dying for glory. We're dying so your children have time to run. The word spread like wildfire. Inside the main council ship, hundreds of alien officers turned to their screens. The feed showed only smoke, sparks, and a silhouette, a man standing amid ruins, holding a rifle that glowed red from heat. His armor was broken. His face was hidden by dust. But the voice carried something no translator could distort. It carried defiance. Some aliens scoffed. A human martyr, they said. They love drama. Others watched in silence, feeling a chill they couldn't explain. In the background of the transmission, distant explosions thundered. Then another human voice, a woman's, came through, shouting over gunfire. They are breaching the west wall. We're surrounded. Static swallowed the rest. The image flickered once, twice, then the signal cut. For a long moment, the council command bridge was quiet. No one spoke. No one moved. Then the silence broke. "Turn that off," snapped an Eleni's officer. "It's propaganda." But no one reached for the controls. On one of the side screens, an alien communications tech whispered, "That was live. The signal's coming from the surface. They are still fighting down there." The officer frowned. "Impossible. The humans are extinct on that planet." "Then who sent this?" No one answered. Far below, on the burning world itself, Sergeant Adam Cross was still alive. The refinery was gone. The tunnels were sealed. The sky burned orange and red as Threx ships poured fire over the city. Adam's squad had fallen back to the western ruins. 3 soldiers left, bleeding and exhausted. Their ammunition was almost gone. The air was hot and heavy with dust. Reed leaned against a broken pillar, coughing. "So, the signal went through. I saw the light on the comm. They heard us." Adam nodded weakly. "Good. That's all we needed." Ortiz looked up at the sky. "They'll come for us now, right? The council fleets. They'll have to." Adam didn't answer, because deep down, he already knew the truth. No one was coming. But that was never the point. Back in orbit, the broadcast kept replaying. News ships recorded it. Civilians saw it. On alien colonies light years away, children huddled around glowing screens as that single voice, human, fragile, unshakable, filled the airwaves. "We're not dying for glory. We're dying so your children have time to run." The words hit something deep inside even the coldest hearts. On the council ship, VA Corps, the same crystalline leader who would later judge Adam, watched silently. His hands trembled slightly, the light inside his body dimming. "Why would they stay?" he murmured. His aide, a young Vaughn soldier, replied quietly, "Because they don't know how to stop." On our count is 4, the humans kept fighting. They moved through ruins, ambushing Threx patrols, planting explosives, dragging wounded civilians through the smoke. They fought with alien rifles, knives, bare hands, whatever they could find. And even when one fell, the others didn't cry. They just kept going. Hours turned into a day. The bombardment never stopped. The world shook apart. Reed was the last to fall. A shard of metal hit his side as they tried to reach the last shelter. He collapsed near the old-school building they had defended days ago. Adam knelt beside him, pressing a hand to the wound. "Stay with me, soldier." Reed smiled faintly, his voice weak. "You think they heard us?" Adam nodded. "Yeah, they did." Reed's eyes drifted shut. "Then that's enough." His breathing stopped. Adam sat there in silence, surrounded by ash and ruin. The city was gone. The sky was fire. The wind carried the smell of smoke and blood. He looked toward the stars, toward the council fleets that had abandoned them. Then, quietly, he raised the broken comm device and sent one last signal. "To whoever's still listening, humanity endures. That's all you need to know." Static. Then silence. Hours later, across the galaxy, something began to change. Reports came in from multiple sectors, alien soldiers on other fronts fighting harder, refusing to retreat. When asked why, they said, "The humans on Arcanis didn't run. Neither will we." In refugee camps, children whispered the story of this smiling soldier. On trading ships, captains replayed the audio like a prayer. No one had seen humans as heroes before. They were too small, too fragile, too emotional. But now, there was something else. A symbol. In orbit, VA Corps stared at the fading static of the last human transmission. "Endure," he repeated softly, even in defeat. His aide turned to him. "Sir." VA Corps looked out the viewport at the burning planet below. "Prepare a retrieval ship. Bring back whatever remains of them." The aide hesitated, but they had gone. VA Corps' eyes glowed faintly. "No," he said. "Something that refuses to die is never gone." Down on the surface, amid smoke and ruin, a single figure still moved. His armor cracked, his rifle gone. Sergeant Adam Cross walked through the burning streets with a limp, carrying the tattered human flag he had found buried in rubble. The wind tore at it, but he held it high, and as the last light of day faded behind the clouds, he smiled again, The same quiet smile that would one day haunt the Council of Nine. For weeks, Arcanis 4 was silent. The surface was scorched black. The air was poison. No signals came through. The Council of Nine declared the planet lost. The official report said, no survivors. Human forces wiped out. Operation terminated. And that should have been the end. But it wasn't. 3 weeks later, a Threx strike team landed on the ruins to recover their dead and collect trophies from the battlefield. They found something else instead. The first Threx squad vanished within an hour. The second sent one final message before their signal went dead. Something, in the smoke, it hunts us. The council dismissed it as malfunction. But then more reports arrived. Patrols disappearing, ships going dark near the surface, motion sensors picking up human heat signatures in the ruins. Impossible, they said. Humans couldn't survive that long without supplies, without air, without hope. And yet, they did. Beneath the burned cities, in the old mining tunnels, a light flickered. It was a small camp, crude shelters made from scrap metal, flickering lamps, and the last surviving humans of Arcanis 4. There were only 4 of them now. Sergeant Adam Cross, Vale, Ortiz, and a half-conscious alien soldier they had rescued, the Elenese named Core. Their faces were thin, pale, their armor cracked and patched with alien plating. They had no food left. Their weapons were half-broken, but their eyes were sharp, and their resolve unshaken. Adam sat beside a makeshift fire, wrapping a cloth around his bleeding hand. Vale looked at him. So, we can't keep this up. We're ghosts. Adam smiled faintly. Then we haunt them. That night, the humans began striking back. They hit Threx patrols under cover of smoke, stealing weapons and supplies. They planted explosives on landing pads. They used wreckage and shadows as allies. The Threx called them the Dead Ones, silent hunters that moved like phantoms through fire. One by one, the alien invaders began to retreat from the city's ruins. Not because of an army, because of 4 broken humans who refused to die. On the Council flagship far above, reports started coming in faster. Unidentified attacks on Threx outposts. Human weapons detected. Survivors confirmed. VA Core, the crystalline leader, read the reports in silence. How many? He asked. The officer hesitated. 4, sir. Maybe less. VA Core's eyes dimmed. 4. Yes, sir. The council chamber went quiet. 4 humans, against thousands of Threx soldiers, and somehow, they were winning small battles. Sabotaging equipment. Freeing captured civilians. It defied logic. It defied everything the aliens believed about humanity. On the surface, Adam and his squad pushed forward each night. Every step hurt. Every breath burned. But the fires that destroyed their world also made them invisible. The Threx scanners couldn't find them through the heat and smoke. They had become part of the planet's scars. One evening, Vale sat beside Adam, both watching the horizon glow faintly with the enemy's campfires. Why do we keep smiling? She asked quietly. Adam looked at her, his face streaked with soot and blood. Because if we stop, we're already dead. She laughed weakly. You think they'll remember us? Adam thought for a moment. They'll remember something. Maybe not names. Maybe just what we stood for. 2 days later, they made their biggest strike. The Threx had built a communications tower in the center of the ruined city, a structure of black steel reaching into the sky. From there, they coordinated their fleet. Adam studied it through binoculars. If we take that out, we cut their link to orbit. It'll buy time for the refugees. Ortiz frowned. There's no way we make it out alive. Adam adjusted his weapon. Didn't say we would. They moved at night, silent, invisible. The storm winds masked their steps. The tower's guards never saw them coming. Explosions lit the sky as the tower fell, burning bright against the darkness. From orbit, the Threx ships went blind. Confused. Vulnerable. And that was when the Council fleets, long waiting for a signal, saw the flames from above. One alien officer whispered, "The humans, they're still fighting." Another corrected softly, "No, they're winning." When rescue finally came, it wasn't planned. A small Elenese transport, searching for survivors, landed in the smoke. The pilot stepped out, coughing through his respirator, and froze. Out of the haze walked Sergeant Adam Cross, dragging a wounded Threx body behind him. His armor was scorched. His eyes were hollow but alive. Behind him came Vale, Ortiz, and Cole, half dead, but standing. The pilot couldn't speak. He'd seen ghosts before, but never like this. Adam looked at him calmly. "You here to arrest us, or take us home?" The pilot just stared. "We thought you were dead." Adam gave that same quiet smile. "We were, but death got tired of us." When the ship lifted off, the ruins of Arcanis 4 burned beneath them. The once-dead planet glowed with fire and memory. As the ship entered orbit, alien soldiers aboard the fleet stood at attention. No one had ordered them to. No one had to. Across 100 ships, screens lit up with a single message. Arcanis 4, survivors found. And below that, another line. Human victory confirmed. That night, for the first time in galactic history, the Council of Nine held a silent moment of respect for a human unit. They didn't understand it. They didn't know why 4 broken soldiers mattered so much. But deep inside, every species watching the news of Arcanis 4 felt the same cold realization. The humans had been mocked, underestimated, ignored. Now they were feared, not for their power, but for their will. And as Adam sat in the transport, watching the burning world fade into the distance, he leaned back and closed his eyes. Reed's voice echoed faintly in his memory. "You think they'll remember us?" Adam smiled. "Yeah," he whispered. "They will now." The war was over. At least, that's what the Council of Nine declared. The Threx Dominion had withdrawn, their fleets shattered and their hives burning. Arcanis 4 was nothing but ash and silence. But through the galaxy, the name Adam Cross spread like wildfire. The dead ones of Arcanis. The humans who refused to die. The soldiers who smiled in hell. Every major world broadcast the same image. A human soldier standing in the ruins, flag in one hand, rifle in the other. The galaxies called it the face of defiance. Alien civilians whispered stories. Soldiers spoke his name like a myth. And in the grand halls of the Galactic Council, the most powerful leaders in the universe were afraid. Va Cor, the crystal-bodied head of the council, stood before the chamber's towering windows, looking out at the glowing stars. "They fought without orders," he said softly. "They disobeyed retreat. They destroyed a Threx fleet. And they survived." Behind him, the other counselors murmured. "Bravery," said one. "Madness," said another. "A threat," said a third. Va Cor turned. "We made a mistake bringing humans into this war. They are unpredictable, uncontrollable, emotional. We cannot allow their kind to shape our wars again." He raised his hand. "From this day, humans are banned from all interstellar military service. No weapons, no fleets, no alliances." The counselors nodded, relieved. They thought they had contained the danger. They didn't realize they had just lit another fuse. Weeks later, Adam Cross stood in front of a large screen inside the human embassy on Orion Prime, watching the council's announcement. He was thinner now, his uniform repaired but still scarred. His eyes were cold. A reporter's voice echoed through the room. "Effective immediately, humans are to be restricted to non-combat roles within galactic borders. Any violation will result in exile or execution." Around him, diplomats argued, shouting at one another. "It's politics," said one. "We need to cooperate." Adam didn't say a word. He just stayed at the screen. Vale entered the room quietly. "They're making you a villain now," she said. "They're saying you defied orders, that you endangered alien lives." Adam gave a small, bitter laugh. "Guess smiling in the wrong place is a crime now." She hesitated. "What will you do?" He turned to her. "What humans always do. Keep going." 2 days later, Adam was summoned to the council chamber, not as a hero, but as a defendant. The same vast room where he had once stood in chains now echoed with whispers as he entered again, unarmed, unbowed. The counselors stared down at him, towering above like gods made of metal, crystal, and smoke. Va Cor's voice rang out. "Sergeant Cross, you are charged with insubordination, unauthorized engagement, and endangering interspecies peace. How do you plead? Adam looked up. I didn't break your laws. I broke your silence. The chamber buzzed with outrage. Viacor slammed his hand against the console. You defied direct retreat orders. Adam's voice was calm. I followed a higher one, survival. Your recklessness destroyed fleets. No, Adam interrupted. Your fear did that. The words hung in the air like a blade. Viacor leaned forward, his crystalline face glimmering with anger. You are dangerous, human. You inspire chaos. Adam's eyes narrowed. You call it chaos. We call it life. Another counselor hissed. Humans are emotional animals. You fight without reason. Adam smiled faintly. Maybe, but at least we fight for something real. The chamber erupted again. Viacor's voice thundered above the noise. Enough. You think your defiance makes you strong? It makes you unstable. You endanger balance. Adam's gaze didn't waver. Balance built on fear isn't peace. It's a cage. The council voted unanimously. Humanity was to be demilitarized. Earth's forces were ordered to stand down. Adam Cross was officially dismissed from service. As the guards moved to escort him out, Viacor spoke coldly. You could have been remembered as a hero, Cross. Instead, you will be forgotten. Adam turned back, calm and steady. You don't get to decide what people remember. And as he walked out, every camera in the chamber recorded his last words, words that would echo through 100 systems before the end of the week. You fear us not because we're violent. You fear us because we don't quit. Outside, in the plaza, hundreds of aliens had gathered to see him leave. Some threw insults. Others just watched in silence. But in the back of the crowd, one young alien soldier raised his hand in salute. Then another, and another. Soon, dozens stood in quiet respect, the same ones who had once mocked him. Adam noticed. He nodded once, that same faint smile returning. Vale watched from the edge of the crowd, whispering under her breath, they tried to silence you, and now you're everywhere. That night, as the council celebrated its peace, strange things began happening across the galaxy. Alien soldiers started wearing human emblems on their armor. Refugees painted Earth's flag on their shelters. Small colonies began forming independent defense groups, using one motto, endure. And somewhere, deep in the dark between stars, encrypted transmissions started bouncing between ships. Simple messages signed only with 3 words. Arcanus still stands. Viacor received one of those messages in his private chamber. He stared at the words on the screen, the light from the stars reflecting off his crystal skin. He whispered to himself, You've already lost, haven't you? No one answered. But far away, on a small freighter leaving the core worlds, Adam Cross looked out the window at the endless stars. He wasn't angry. He wasn't afraid. He just smiled softly, because he knew what the council didn't. You can ban a soldier, but you can't ban humanity.